Thanks so much for tuning in to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. So when we originally recorded this episode, we had video we were very excited about. We made multiple references to that. Unfortunately, both Jeremy and I were so handsome that we broke the camera. So video didn't end up working out for this episode, but please stay tuned and stay on for all the content that we talked about during that episode. Thanks again, as always, for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. My name is Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts.
And I'm Jim Floyd, owner of Ascent Total Performance.
Well, we're excited for today, diving back into a little content.
Yeah.
Some fun. So what are we going to be talking about, Jim?
So even before we get to the topic, so I just want to say that we fancy. Now, we got our logo up in the background, all that kind of stuff. So our producer has really got us moving into that, where you got to look at our faces all the time now too. Yeah, we're moving up.
So I always thought we should just act like we've always been there.
Yeah.
And so I was going to dive right in, but I'm down for it.
So that kind of leads into our topic for today too. Is when we both first started this podcast, I'll freely admit I wasn't very good at doing that stuff.
Hey, we're right there together.
Still probably not there now either. But I think one of the topics we want to talk about today is, so what do we do when we have that one thing or multiple things that we just don't feel like we're good enough at? Mm-hmm. And maybe a little less formal description of that is like what to do when you suck at something.
That's right. That's right. Well, last week's episode with Chuck, with the Rayford House, we talked about you and the whole debate thing, joke. And, it's really neat how you progressed in that, and how when I met you, I would have never, once again, a man of small words, but never someone that I think would ever shy from a moment to be on stage. You know what I mean? Because of what you're inspiring people to do. But obviously that took time, effort, energy. And we said, man, light goes off. I think that light actually just flickered back on. But we had an idea and we were like, let's talk about that, because I know that multiple people go through this.
Oh man. And I think whether you call it imposter syndrome or something else, or just we just have gaps in knowledge, or just our comfort or different things, we need to identify those. We need to address them too. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about recognizing those things that we need to talk about, or we need to figure out about ourselves, and some things that we maybe need to get better at. And then how do we do that?
That's right. And so one of the key points here is we're going to have three things that we're going to dive into. But number one is, how do you know that you truly need to get better at something, or is it something that you can delegate? Because there's a difference between public speaking and your bookkeeping. And so really just being able to dial in, like, hey, you were created in a way to exude in certain areas. Yep. And I don't believe that you should ever put a Band-Aid on that and run over and try to get way better at this other thing. Like, you need to do what you're naturally talented at if you're going to truly be passionate, excited, and be able to make a difference. But that's not to say you can't get better. So let's dive into that a little more. Yeah,
absolutely. So we need to make sure that we're staying, wheelhouse is maybe not the right word with it, but within our zone of genius of what we're doing and what we're comfortable with doing, but also recognize that there's probably some aspects of that we recognize that maybe we aren't as good as we should be with that. So how do we identify some of those things, and some of the stuff like what you just said, of things that we can truly need to work on and put ourselves in position to be able to do that? Or is this something that we can just ask someone else to do?
That's right. So thinking about me and my budgeting, creating a budget or getting in control of my books, for me, I could have spent hours watching YouTube, and obviously to an extent, I need to obviously be able to be accountable to the people that I put in those spots. But, you say you hire people that are smarter than you are for the areas where you need help. Yeah. And even if that's not necessarily an employee, but you're hiring and you're outsourcing a professional that can come into that. Once again, you need to work on it a little bit, but it doesn't need to be that sole focus. But on the other hand, public speaking, and I'm just trying to think of some other things, like, no one can work out for you. Yeah. But you can have a personal trainer. Yep. But no one can actually do the physical movements. No one can get on a stage and convey with passion what excites you and things such as that. So there are things that cannot be hired for. And that's kind of what we want to spend our time talking about.
Yeah, and I think just thinking of a couple good examples with that is so most of us being entrepreneurs and probably founders of our companies, at some point we're going to probably transition into that role of being more of that CEO, visionary leader, that kind of thing. But what if our leadership skills aren't good?
That's right.
With that. And so there's so many aspects of that could be a whole other podcast. Oh, yeah. But then, so we need to think about, so if we have challenges with that of like knowing like how, like what kind of leader do I want to be? How do I want to lead? We got to have a plan to get better at that if we want to be able to accomplish our goals in our company.
Yeah, well, self-reflection. So what you're saying is not only who am I today, but who do I aspire to be?
Yeah.
Because if you say to yourself, man, I want to lead this organization, I want to make these changes, but you're not willing to invest in leadership, if you're not willing to invest in accountability, if you're not willing to invest in public speaking, then that is not aligned with who you're trying to become. And so if you're trying to become a bookkeeper, then obviously you should spend your time. And so I love that. It's not just where am I today, but where am I being called? Like, what is the mission that I am trying to accomplish? I mean, look at us right now. We're not producing this podcast ourselves. We honestly haven't produced a single episode of this podcast. And if we were, we'd probably be on episode test pilot number 4, right now. And so there's a beauty of plugging it in where you can, but also being willing to like unplug yourself from what you're doing every day and learn something so that when you do plug it back in, man, it's energized and ready to go. So let's just say that we've identified, man, this is who we are. Yeah. This is what we want to accomplish. And we know that this is an area that we can't delegate it, but we need to take hold of this. What is step 2 in the process?
So step 2 is, so we've identified what we need to work on. We need to figure out, so what are going to be the things that we need to do to get better at this? Yeah. And whether it's we're seeking out certain resources, coaching, books, podcasts, those different things. Or so in my case, when I recognize, as not a very good public speaker and all that kind of stuff, there's plenty of resources out there. What I identified is like my bigger block was standing in front of people and talking. So no better way to get better in that than making yourself be in those positions and just getting reps.
And what's beautiful is that's where we met.
Yeah.
Once again, when you put yourself into uncomfortable positions, you get to meet people like me, and you take that for what it is. You know what I mean? You may say, "Oh man, you might turn into a hermit."
That's like the second or third greatest moment of my life.
The other two were whenever he leaves every time after we hang out. So no, but all serious though. But you put yourself into positions, and man, that's what opens up doors, because nothing worthwhile is easy. He's challenging. It's putting yourself. For me, it's a confidence thing. It's like you have worked your way to this level, and you're putting yourself in positions and rooms. I am very quick and eager to go up and meet the people that I know that I need to, because I don't want to let there be that awkwardness, or allow myself to get in my own head when it comes to that. And so for me, thinking back to kind of how it built up, I was intentional and something that we can all do. I don't care if you're starting today or if you started 10 years ago, we all have 24 hours in a day. We're all busy, but let's be productive, okay? And so what I want you to do is I want you to look at your calendar, and I want you to say, you know what, I'm going to give myself every Thursday at 2:30 to 3, that's going to be my time, okay? Because there's one thing in planning, there's one thing in creating a process, but there also has to be action.
Yeah.
And that 30-minute segment is you starting, and the law of atomic habits, 1%.
Yep.
1% growth is going to create something really exponential in your life as it continues to grow.
It compounds, adds up over time.
Mm-hmm.
So we've identified something we need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that recognition. So now we're figuring out what are the things how can we work on that, whether it's through being intentional about experiences, seeking out coaching, other resources, and all that kind of stuff. But then it ultimately comes down to is what you just said is you got to do it.
Yeah.
And there's really no substitute for that. It's like you have to make a decision. It's like, I want to be better at this.
Mm-hmm.
These are things I need to do. I need to put these things into place. Because otherwise you can have a plan. You can do all that kind of stuff. But if you don't believe in what you're doing and you really have that intention of really wanting to get better with that, it's not going to happen.
That's right. And so taking it back to mine, and I'd love to elaborate into yours because we've literally seen the progression of it. But, for me, it's step number one was I identified that I want to become more comfortable in my own skin, being in whatever room that I'm in, because this is who God made me to be.
Yeah.
And I deserve to be there. And so for me, it was number one, identifying that's not something I can hire for.
Yeah.
There's nobody. Unfortunately, when you got a face like this, there's not stunt doubles out there. You know what I mean? And so you just have to roll with it. And so for me, it was like, okay, I've answered question number one. This is who I want to be. It identifies with my DNA. And so I'm going to go after it. Number two was I made that time. I said, what can I do? Like, how do you just all of a sudden become this? I started with setting that time to be intentional about that. And then number three was I went out and got to action. So I joined networking groups. I've go to all these different events. I put myself in position, even when I'm at Walmart or Target or Ace hardware store, I'm always talking to someone. I love to get to know the business owners. I love to ask them about their business and work on so many things. My intentional listening, active listening, so many different things, because I'm naturally a talker. But it's so great to put myself in positions to where I can and listen. And jokingly enough, I love Zoom. Yeah. Because in Zoom, I can press mute and I can talk, but they can't hear me. And so I literally stop myself from talking. And it's amazing how much more people enjoy that conversation whenever literally I can't do that in public. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's learning, like, where can you really work on your skills? For me, Zoom is a really great way because I can stop myself from what I sometimes can't help but do.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying is it's essentially a skills progression, just like anything else. And so figuring out how do you work on those skills. That's the big thing. So for me, we talked about this a little bit on the podcast with Chuck about, me with the debate class and just having difficulties with standing in front. I wasn't scared or anything like that. I just didn't have anything to say. And so it was more just like I guess maybe not comfortable doing that. And, but I recognized that the only way that I was going to get better is making myself do it and remove that uncomfortable part of it. And so that progressed over the course of multiple years of just every opportunity I had. Okay, I'll do this, even though I'm really like, I don't feel good about it or anything like that. I need to make sure that I'm going to do that to get better at it. Even today, I listen to all of our podcasts whenever they come out, and I was like, man, I really don't like the way I sounded with that, or I need to have more energy with things too. And so then, all right, so now I'm going to keep that in my mind for this next episode so I can talk a little bit faster.
That's why you took in that Red Bull before we came in here. I saw you.
Hey, it's just like chugging, like.
And so it was taking them down.
But those are kind of things where, so we need reps to practice those things and continue to progress. And so I recognize that as a weakness, so I need to push it. So another big thing that we think about too, especially being in leadership positions, and kind of going back to that topic of things that we absolutely need to work on versus what we can delegate out, is I think especially when we're in a position where we have staff members that we need to be leaders and shepherds for, is that concept of emotional intelligence and being able to understand what's going on in someone's life and how do we approach that and be able to support them, but also be able to give feedback and all that kind of stuff, but doing it in a way that's productive and not just creating fires and all kinds of stuff like that. That is very much a skill that we can't delegate out to someone else, especially as a leader of an organization too. And so that's where having some coaching, creating or seeking out resources. So somebody like Jada Willis that was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I mean, in her former HR life, that was a lot of, they did trainings on those kind of things. So stuff like that are very, very important for someone in a leadership position. You really need to have plans for how to get better at that.
Yeah. Well, we all can't be like Jim. Jim's like, hey, I'm struggling with public speaking, so I'm just going to go teach a college class. You know, I mean, you know, I'm just saying like let's take it down a few levels. Let's, you know, but that was just an incredible way to really force yourself to overcome that fear. You know, I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, and it was really incredible because there was a lady there, and she was amazing. She played a harp. It was incredible, beautiful music, but she looked like she was born for the stage.
Yeah.
And as her story unfolded, what happened was her father was like a doctor, her mother was like a lawyer, something like that, and they both just quit their jobs and they started a traveling family band.
Yeah.
And from like the age of like 3, she has photo after photo of her on a stage, and it was natural.
Yep.
And it's who she feels born and called to be. But because she's been there so often, it was natural. Guys, that's not the same for us. If you're struggling with one of these things, we haven't been born into it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not, this isn't something that's natural. But the beautiful thing that I'm telling you is that it can be. You can get there if you decide to make this part of your every day, your every week. If you continuously immerse yourself in these areas, Jim, man, what an opportunity when you do conquer that. What's next? Like and like you said, it's like that. Like it's like a muscle at the gym. No one goes to the gym. I mean, you go to the gym. I should say I'd never go to the gym. I need to start. You know what I mean? But you're working with me on that. But what I'm saying though is, no one goes and they walk out saying, "Man, you know what? I lifted 50-pound dumbbells today. I should see the results right now." No one expects that. But yet in our professional development, we want instant gratification.
Yeah. And it's just not going to happen with that. It's got to be consistency and bringing it every day and showing up and just doing the work. Yeah. And that's really the only thing. You know, you can get these instant changes, but it's not going to last. Even if you can wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to do this. This is who I'm going to be." Yeah, maybe you might do that for that day or even just half of that day. But unless it's an intentional thing and you're doing it consistently, it's not going to stick.
That's right. And be accountable to someone. I'm going to tell you 2 situations. You know, number 1, my weight loss journey, down 7 pounds. Let's celebrate that. But Jim holds me accountable in that. And then what I want to do is, I see so many professionals in my industry, they are doing such incredible video content. And so what I do with my media team, Yomaz Media Co., I share my vision with them. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And guess what happens? We filmed 10 videos 2 weeks ago, and they're going to start coming out on our YouTube channel. And but none of that would have actually happened if I just said it out loud to myself. I had to find people that I'm friends with, that I pay to be friends with me, you know, like Yomaz Media Co. over here. You know, at the end of the day, that they listen to what I say. They say, you know, we want to bring that to life. You know, and they champion that into existence. And I think that's a beautiful thing as well.
Yeah, having that network. And speaking of that, I'm still waiting on a check.
Okay. You know, it'll come. It'll come.
I mean, matter of fact, you know, I mean, Daniel, we probably should just go ahead and cut.
Yeah,
that's it. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. We need to have the resources that are there, and whether it's a circle of friends or colleagues that are helping cheer you on and support you through that journey. But ultimately, it comes down to, what are you going to do about it? And what are you going to do about your perceived limitations? And so you can either accept that for just, that's just who I am and all that stuff. I think, honestly, I'm going to be pretty frank with you on that. That's BS. And
you guys are seeing the gym that we love right here.
And so we can always get better at things. You know, sometimes we are who we are, but using that as an excuse, that doesn't fly for me. And so the more that we embrace that, we create process, we create steps to be able to address those things. And then we just have to do it.
That's it. Big things. Just do it. I'm still working on that. You know, got a few legal issues here, but
I'm
we're going to get
waiting for that letter to come at some point.
We haven't made it yet. When the letter comes, you'll know we've made it. But guys, so just to quickly recap, okay, we're talking about the 3 steps to help you overcome something that you're struggling with, something that you're trying to get better at, something you realize, once again, it's learning what can be delegated versus what it's going to take you and you only to accomplish, to be willing to start. It's identifying how can you actually do this through setting some time to do some research, to plan, but it doesn't stop there because you have to do it.
Yep.
And so what we would love, I know myself, we've got two stories when we sit here and think about it. I know you guys have been through so much. So many of you are 10 years ahead of us. You're right there with us. You're just starting an organization and you've been through these same things. So I'll just ask, join us in this journey. I cannot wait to hear some things that you've taken the bulls by the horn and you have overcome and conquered, because that's what this is about.
Absolutely.
Is celebrating success.
Yeah. We'd love to hear everyone's stories about those different challenges that they've been able to overcome.
Yeah, and we're so blessed that you guys do bring those to us.
Yeah. And so it's really cool for us. So now we podcast now, and so now we've got branching into video world with having the YouTube channel. So that's just more avenues. Boom. Leave some comments on there. Let us know. And we have all kinds of ideas for different things too. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. But gosh, we love to answer questions and be able to talk about specific topics and things like that too. So please comment on them, or just reach out to one of us and just let us know if there's something you want to know, or something we've had experience, or any of those kind of things. Just something we can talk about.
Well, I've got a minor nugget alert that really just came to me, and I want to talk about this for a moment, because we're not hiding anything here. Like, this is us, it's uncut, and that's kind of what I want to talk about, is that we've been no video up to this point in time, guys. No video, okay? And so when we're having a podcast, we sound way better than it actually is. Let's just be transparent here.
Yeah, thanks to Daniel.
Daniel is making us look good, sound good, I should say, and he still hasn't made me look good yet. We'll see when this comes out if that happens. But ultimately, what I say though is that we weren't on video, and so we were able to make mistakes.
Yeah.
These last two, the video before, we had Chuck on, as well as this one. Man, this is uncut, unedited. This is who we are.
Yeah.
But guess what? Those mistakes, they haven't happened.
Yeah.
Because we put ourselves in a position where the mistakes can't happen. Yeah. And pressure creates diamonds, guys. And that's what I'm telling you. Put yourself in a position where you can celebrate yourself. Because I'm going to say, hey, high five, man.
Boom. Yeah.
I mean, we'll make